Today's mug moment comes from Matthew chapter 24, verse 31. And he will send out his angels with the mighty blast of a trumpet, and they will gather his chosen ones from all over the world, from the farthest ends of the earth and heaven. So what Jesus is doing here is he's expanding on what his second coming is going to look like. And a lot of the time when he does this, there's two main responses that we tend to have. The first one is probably the more common one, and it's also not the one that Jesus is looking for. The first one here is fear. And we hear this and we think, man, Jesus is trying to scare us into following him really closely or trying to scare us into doing the right thing. But that's not the point of this passage at all. What Jesus is doing is he's providing us with hope. And that's the second response, one of excitement, one of joy, one with just overflowing joy, that there's something more than just this life, that there's something that we have to look forward to than just the problems that we're facing today. There's a lot of the time two different extremes or two different traps that if we aren't careful, we can fall into. The first extreme is that we hyper-focus on the second coming of Christ. We make it an idol in our lives. It turns it into this really unhealthy obsession. The second extreme, the opposite extreme, is that we forget about it altogether. We just ignore it. We pretend like it doesn't even matter. But Jesus here, he's saying I'm going to return, and he's saying I'm going to at that point gather all the ones that are part of my flock, all the ones that choose to follow me together. And that's something we can look forward to, something that we can be joyful about, have hope in. There's a couple different scenarios where if we aren't careful, we can forget about that and we can ignore it. The first is we're hurting, we're suffering, and we forget that these problems aren't going to last. These problems are super temporary and just a wisp compared to the eternity that's after his second coming. The second scenario is life is comfortable. We're fairly happy, and we mistake this life for heaven, and we forget that it's going to fade and that it's just a wisp compared to eternity. So now let's turn in prayer to God, thanking him and rejoicing and looking forward to his second coming and the eternity that he has in store for us.